I just couldn't find it. I literally, yeah, you need some SEO help, I think. What do I search for to find it? Logic Guy? Because that doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't bring up anything. Well,
let me try this. I gotta get a look at this. I mean, I'm signed in as me, so it's probably going to.
Do you have to change the O to a 0?
Of course, it's called branding.
That's what I say. I've tried that and still nothing. Yes, it's.
Well, I am. Oh, yeah. It's official. I am being shadow banned by YouTube. I am being throttled. We have exposed their dark magic here. This is shocking.
Yeah, I've got you.
You want me to introduce you? Should I do an introduction? I like to do these, and sometimes I edit them in, and sometimes I don't. I just go in cold. But it's another episode of Logic Guy After Dark. You know me, I'm Logic Guy, and this is a show where I chat with my friends and or enemies. I'll let them self-identify. And today, I've got Trev Ken, YouTuber, online personality, Twitter gadfly. Trev, say hi.
Hello. How are you doing, Logic Guy?
I am well. Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff, including a extremely timely and up to date conversation about a video you made like a month ago about stonks, which we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about your ongoing feud with the QAnon researcher community. Would you say that's a fair characterization?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I'd say okay. I have some criticisms. It's not like a massive feud, but yeah, I have some criticisms.
Can I say, and I hope I'm not speaking out of school here, but you were spitting fire on Twitter, and when I brought it up in the DMs, I was like, hey, we can talk about all the controversy with you and QAnon researchers, and you were like, oh no, I actually don't have any criticisms. No, I you just walked it all back, but we'll see. We'll see how.
Okay, so I can explain if you want that. So my criticism is more about the nature of, I guess you would call it like Noam Chomsky's manufactured concerns, and I understand that because I've been in that situation as well, where I wouldn't want to say anything too controversial because of my position, And so it was more frustration about the fact that people aren't willing to rock the boat a bit more and say things that are kind of a bit obvious, even though there isn't that much evidence for it, things like that. Although I can see that the reason why they wouldn't want to encourage any kind of conspiracy kind of ideas themselves. I think a lot of it is out there already, like how a lot of these dark money funds a lot of these kind of more crazier kind of disinformation campaigns.
Can I read the tweet in question here?
Yeah,
so that the audience has some context. Okay, so this is Trev Ken speaking on twitter.com. Follow Trev Ken. Why on earth are QAnon researchers, scare quotes, denying that there could have been any institutional support? Q updates could easily have been posted by Trump allies and the governments, but mostly General fucking Flynn was a QAnon pusher. How much more evidence do you need? And then wait, here's where it gets spicy, I think, in the next one. Wait, no, actually, it's 2 tweets down. Like literally, I'm in a group chat with other researchers and reporters on QAnon from the BBC and others writing books on it. I'll probably get kicked out after they see this tweet, but they constantly deny any possibility, like their manufactured careers depended on it. Damn, Q Superfire GIF right now, because
I can bring the fire on Twitter. Yeah, I do bring the fire on Twitter a little bit. Yeah. I think, but I
believe I am also in. I believe I'm also in that. There's a lot of big swinging dicks, big egos in that chat. I butt heads with them quite frequently sometimes.
Yeah, so you would have seen my interactions with them already.
I don't know if I'm up to date on everything going on in that chat, to be honest. And I was offline for a while.
So from my point of view, there does seem to be a little bit of a schism between even the conspiracy researchers themselves. There's the types that are in our group that are kind of more kind of focused on, and I think it's totally valid. We should do that, focusing on the effects of how it's affecting people, you know, and the kind of more bottom up effects of it. But then they kind of almost avoid looking at the wider context. And so I come from it from an economic perspective, and for years I've been kind of a money campaigner. So I've been aware of a lot of the different interest groups that have been funding disinformation for years. And now I've seen this massive rise of all these different conspiracies that are converging. And it seems almost patronizing to suggest that they've all converged with these conspiracies that all just so happen to help the elite from the bottom up. It's a bit silly to suggest that, really, even.
Well, so what specifically are you alleging that the manufactured careers of the QAnon researchers are omitting specifically? Because I'm not sure I get the specifics.
I just think that, and understandably, I can see why it would be risky for a BBC reporter to be pointing out, well, General Flynn, you know, was pushing QAnon, and let's see how much more support there was, you know, because, you know, obviously, it's a manufactured consent, isn't it? Really, you don't want a risky career. Whereas I don't really have a career in that yet. Maybe a bit of an aspiring career, so I'm a bit hungrier, so I can speak the fire, I guess. But
Okay, so General Flynn is posting Q drops on 8kun, and where's the dark money fitting into this?
So there's lots of, in fact, I can get a few different quotes. There's nothing tied directly to QAnon, but there's things like the funders of Parler were the same people that funded Cambridge Analytica. I know Parler's not directly connected to QAnon, but a lot of the people were given support there. So I wasn't finishing my other explanation. So there's and then there's like the liberals that kind of blame it all on Russia. And then there's and then there's people that think it's genuinely, you know, bottom up fascist movement. And then there are people that also see the funding, the economic side of it as well. And I think we just need a balanced kind of view of it from all three, really. You can't just ignore the influences, the foreign influences, and you can't just ignore the influences from billionaires, and you can't just ignore the bottom up fascists either. You have to look at all three.
I think I might err on the side of the bottom up fascists, like meaning like it's like I don't want to call it grassroots, but basically a critical mass of shut-in internet weirdos have gotten on board with something, and now it's taken off. And like for one thing, it's actually not. I don't have any evidence. This is just me, pontificating here. But it's not hard for me to imagine that actually a bunch of different forces could converge organically. That seems like that's kind of one of the consequences of social media and the internet. And the other thing is, I don't see much strategy behind QAnon. I don't like the question like who benefits. Doesn't have an obvious answer to me. It seems like a very chaotic, unruly movement.
I was having a discussion with one of the guys in the group. I won't mention who it was. Outside of the group, actually, in a tweet thread, and he was talking about the tweets not be the Q updates, the Q drops not being cryptic, and I was like, well, they're the very definition of cryptic. If you look at,
I would have to agree with you about that.
And he was saying that well, they're not because there's no direction in what they're saying. And I was like, well, really, there is. When you look at it, they're basically retelling, they're recycling the protocols of Elders of Zion. Really, it's the old fascist conspiracy theories. So there is a general message that's coming through that's cryptic, and it almost seemed like he was kind of denying it.
By cryptic, you mean like dog whistling?
Yeah, dog whistling fascist ideology, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So like they're saying, oh, the elites and the swamp creatures and the Democrats, but they mean the Jews, basically, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of the they do tend to converge towards that. Yeah.
I'm not sure myself, but you're sort of getting
a lot of the time it's the Hollywood elite, or it's the or a lot of the time actually, and that's where they do converge with a lot of what the billionaire kind of Brexiteer people push. It's the elites, it's the little guy against the elites, and they don't call it Jews, but it's kind of similar with this Wall Street bets thing as well. There's a bit of a dog whistle thing going on there, but it's not out and out though. But for many years, like I say, I've been coming from this from a financial perspective. I've seen lots of different libertarians trying to put short squeezes on hedge funds or claiming to want to. And I've been thinking, no, they're just doing a pump and dump. And it just seems like another one of those, if you want to shift onto the stocks now.
I want to stay. I want to stay on the QAnon thing just a little bit more, because I'm still not 100% sure. I'm picking up what you're laying down, but I noticed you're sort of like getting into it with Julian Fields Field, I guess, of QAnon Anonymous. I mean, they're a group that like I don't think has like a real career to protect or anything like that. Like I think that they would be pretty comfortable at least suggesting that Michael Flynn was behind some QAnon drops if they felt it was true.
Do they say he's behind some of the drops as well?
Oh no, I don't. I'm not sure that they have, but I'm saying I think that I think they would feel comfortable doing it.
So my point is that just him endorsing it at all is much bigger than even if Q was real, because Q is only a low level.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point that you make.
Nuclear clearance anyway, really, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So even if Q were real, General Flynn endorsing that kind of stuff is still bigger. So it's like
right, because he's as national security advisor, he would have presumably top level security clearance. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I guess well, so maybe not though, because Flynn never endorsed. QAnon didn't even exist while Flynn was in the White House. Flynn was out the door very quickly.
Yeah, but that was maybe because he was being a bit too open about it.
Well,
who knows?
I mean, too open about what?
Too open about his support for that kind of crypto-fascist ideology.
But I mean, there was no. But the point I'm making is that there was no QAnon for him to be endorsing while he was in the White House. He started doing that. I don't remember when he started, but he was like getting prosecuted by the FBI by the time he was talking up QAnon, wasn't he?
Really? Okay.
Because QAnon came onto the scene in like October 2017.
Yeah, that was around about the time that I first heard about QAnon as well. Yeah. But
I'm gonna make a really go on a limb and make a claim here.
I would also say that QAnon wasn't really one conspiracy. Really, I think it dovetailed from the whole Pizzagate thing. Really, I wouldn't really separate it. I know that a lot of people do like to separate them.
It does slide into that very
distinction
very easily.
To me, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, because QAnon Pizzagate was started by an account called was it FBI Anon or CIA Anon? And then after that, weren't there a bunch of copycat accounts that called themselves like NSA Anon and stuff like that? And QAnon was just one in a series of copycats that happened to catch on. That's my understanding of the history there.
I think originally it kind of came from the culture of the Anon of the original anonymous kind of online 4chan culture as well. And so exactly, I mean, nobody knows who's posting there. And it's a similar thing with the Wall Street bets. No one knows whether it's hedge fund guys there pretending to be little guys saying, oh yeah, I'm ready to lose all my money on this to stick it to the guy. Who knows? No one could know.
Because you got in a flame war about this. I think with a mutual of mine, where I tried to like intervene because you were saying that this Reddit post telling people to hold on for dear life was like obviously like fake and like from some like hedge fund guy, and the other person I think was like plausibly like calling you out and being like, you don't know that, you're making claims that you can't substantiate, which is true. Yeah, it's true. But at the same time, that's sort of the point. Like, we don't know who any of these people are. We have no way of substantiating it. And that post which I don't have in front of me, I can't read from, but it was pretty sketchy. It was written like, hey, I'm actually really poor and I don't care if I lose hundreds of dollars. It's no big deal. Like, that doesn't sound very authentic to me, in my opinion.
it didn't sound very authentic. So I did actually speak to the person, or well, a person that claimed to be that person.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah,
investigative journalism.
No, he came to me actually, so that's why it's a little bit strange. So
Oh,
he got a tweet with 180,000 likes, and he come and searched me down specifically, the one person that's criticizing him. Yeah, no, I don't know.
So how did that conversation go?
Not very. I don't think it was that person, to be honest. He didn't provide me any. He told me he's going to be on CBS documentary and on film as well. I may get back in touch with him again, but he didn't seem very genuine. Yeah, so I guess I've been a little bit controversial and flamey on Twitter because, as I said, I've been cancelled. Like I go and check my Twitter on shadowban.eu, and all week, all that. Sorry, pretty much for a whole month, I was shadow banned for like on 2 levels of shadow banning, not just like reply deboosting, but also so that you can't be found in the search and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's happened to me a bunch of times.
Yeah. So, but it's happened to me before, and that's normally when I've been like replying to people like a bit too much and stuff like that. But this time it just happened for like a month, and it just didn't go away. And I was like, I was getting a bit frustrated and trying to.
That's a long time, actually.
And it did actually work. I was being a bit spicy about the stocks thing, and I had a few people reply to me, and then I was able to draw out a few conversations. Yeah, as you know, sometimes being spicy can get you.
No, I'm pretty much like I don't know. I barely get any traction these days on the old Twitter.com. Like I have a fair amount of followers, and like if you look at I have over 3,000 followers, and if you look at like my recent posts, I'll get like 3 likes or something, like 0.1% interaction. Like I don't know, my Twitter is pretty dead these days actually. So whatever I do doesn't really inflame people enough.
I need to. Not what it used to be, eh?
The faucet's turned off, man. I gotta say, dude, I gotta get something off my chest about Twitter.com, because I'm gonna transition into a full-time Twitter complainer. That's what the future of the show is gonna be. Because I was doing it, Chud Logic and I were doing it last week, and it was pretty fun to get that stuff off my chest. But it seems like these days all my interactions on Twitter are whatever I post, mutuals of mine show up to argue with me, largely over things that bear almost no connection to what I actually said. I don't know if you followed the Taylor Lorenz controversy at the New York Times recently.
Not so much that, but some of the cancel culture stuff I've interacted.
There's been a huge amount of controversies at the New York Times, like 3 different firings over the past week, and then this Taylor Lorenz situation, which was not a firing, but one of their reporters who reports on like internet culture publicly accused a CEO of a tech VC of having used a slur in a Clubhouse chat, which that's a new social media site that is invite only.
Run by Elon Musk.
No, it's not run by Elon Musk. Actually, the people in the
he uses it though, yeah.
What?
He uses it though, yeah.
Yeah, he's on it. Yeah, he's on it. I don't know how prolific. I'm not on it, so I don't know how prolific anyone is. But yeah, I think he's talked it up. It's kind of popular. It's kind of having a moment right now. But she accused this one guy of using a slur. The slur was retard during a presentation, I think they're called, and she got it wrong. So someone else had said it, and also she ignored the context of it, which I guess is official New York Times policy now. But
was it in relation to a trader?
Yeah, that was it. They were talking about stonks. Yes, so that was it. And for those of you that don't know, I guess we need to explain it. That probably most people know this, but in case you don't, on the Wall Street Bets subreddit, they refer to themselves as retards because that's their word. I'm not saying it. They refer to themselves by that word because it's an anagram for trader or trade, whatever. Yeah. So so I dropped a comment on that, just being like, I don't find Taylor Lorenz's conduct to be very professional here, and all of a sudden I got mutuals in my replies. Man, this is fucking whiny, but whatever. I'm just gonna commit to it. I got mutuals in my replies yelling at me about Glenn Greenwald, who I literally did not mention and is not firsthand involved in the story. But I don't know. I'm just now I'm in an argument about Glenn Greenwald, who I don't even like. I fucking trash him all the time now. I trashed him today.
Yeah, he's going crazy today, or the past couple of days, isn't he? He's attacking one of my mutuals actually. That's calling out a lot of his bullshit, and he seems to be crashing.
Who's he attacking?
He's attacking someone that's he said that's claiming to be a black woman, but nowhere has this person.
Oh, that guy's one of your mutuals? Peter Solar is one of your mutuals? Dude, you know that guy has a really shady history, right?
Really? I don't really know. All I saw is that person has called out quite a few of the dodgy people on Twitter. But why? What's the history that that person got them? Other than having the same surname as the.
Right. Yes. His grandfather was a famous Nazi with a slightly different surname. It wasn't even the same surname. His name is Solar, and the guy in question was Zoller. So Peter Solar, for starters, is not just some internet rando. He was actually a defendant in the J20 trial, if you remember that from 2017. So he had his name out there, and he was banned from Twitter circa 2019, I'm going to say, because he was instigating and condoning violence and doxing against basically huge swaths of the left. He said that people should throw cement at Chapo Trap House. He talked about like attacking, I don't know, just all your favorite like leftist shitposter podcasts. He was out there doxing them and calling for direct violence against them. And then he wrote this. He posted a bunch of like pretty crazy stuff. I'm gonna put it in the show notes. But I'm sure I have a screenshot of this. He infamously posted this diagram he made on his phone of that supposedly was of the left, and I can't describe it. Maybe I can drop it. I don't want to stop what I'm doing to drop it in chat, but you've got to see this to believe it. It's like Charlie from It's Always Sunny with the big board territory. Like it's exactly out of that. And then he posted this. You can't find it online anymore. It might be archived somewhere. But this like monstrosity document on like medium.com that was basically his epic where he spun his master story about how prominent leftist podcasters are part of something called are part of the Strasserite Red Brown Alliance, and I don't know, just said some pretty crazy things. But the main thing to know about him is that he was very overtly calling for violence and doxing against a bunch of people on Twitter. So he's genuinely really suspect, and there's a lot. He's the guy you hear a lot of rumors about. Like there is a lot of speculation about the fact that he was the only one of the J20 defendants to accept some kind of plea bargain. So he made some kind of deal.
What was the J20? Sorry.
I'd have to bring it up. So the J20, it happened in the wake of Trump's inauguration, and there were like mass protests and demonstrations. And the J20 were a group not of 20 people. I think there were like 200 defendants, if I'm not mistaken. Let me J20 trial.
This was for like anti-fascist action, then.
Yep. Yeah. In the wake of Donald Trump's inauguration, and a bunch of people were arrested and tried, and it was a very controversial trial that received a fair amount of media coverage, at least here in the States. There's a Rolling Stone article that just came up. J20, 1 year later, what it's like to face decades in prison for protesting. I wonder if our friend Peter is referenced here. I don't think he is. Because there were not 20 defendants, there were quite a number of them, if memory serves. Unless there weren't, in which case I'll edit that out. But I don't want to follow police you, but Peter Solar is like a genuinely unhinged guy. But I saw the post you're talking about, and it's not okay to lie about people and spread misinformation. Like his grandfather was a Nazi, which why would that even fucking matter? Like, did he inherit original sin from him? And then that he impersonated a woman of color, supposedly, which there's no evidence of him having done whatsoever. And meanwhile, you've got this treasure trove of worse things that he actually genuinely did do. So just attack him for that.
I guess where I would come from it. So I know the guys you're talking about, and I know the whole narrative that they're talking about, like with the Chapo and stuff like that. And I don't agree with the whole doxing thing, but they're right about a lot of the Red Brown Alliance. That I made a video about that last year, some time ago, and that was just from my own kind of research, from what I'd seen, stuff like. There's a big, as I said, there's a big crossover with stuff that comes from Russia Today. I don't want to sound like a whole big Russia conspiracist.
So when you say he's right about it, like what specifically is he right about?
Well, stuff like Caleb Maupin, a lot of those supposedly.
So Caleb Maupin, I don't know much about that guy, but what I do know is that he actually did appear at a video with Alexander Dugin, who Alexander Dugin is literally the leader of the Russians' Nazbal party. When I first heard of Nazbals, not National Bolsheviks, I just thought it was a meme. But Nazbals are an actual political party in Russia.
And there's actually quite a lot of people trying to push it. If you hang around in dark corners of Discord like I used to a couple of years ago, and there is quite a lot of people that really are kind of pushing this whole, oh yeah, we should just work together with the fascists to get stuff done. And there was a big. Hold
on. I want to unpack that, because I think almost no one has actually met a literal Nazbal, like an actual, like the actual thing, like, because it's a marginal party in Russia.
Other than on Twitter, no, or on Discord, no. You're right. I don't know
that you could name many actual Nazbals on Twitter, like maybe Caleb Maupin, but all we have to go on that is that he appeared at a convention.
So if you follow a few of the guys that I do, you would find them. I think a lot of them are just literally trolls and disinformation, things themselves.
Okay.
But they do exist. There is an issue, and people like Jimmy Dore have blatantly shown that now. With the way that he's,
but Dore's what I'm talking about. Like Dore is not.
I used to enjoy Jimmy Dore myself as well, but he's just so
I've never enjoyed him.
Misled. He's been so easily misled by this whole red-brown disinformation campaign that he was just eating out.
But I think we need to draw a distinction between someone like Jimmy Dore, who's saying kind of far out things, and I think oftentimes Dore is like really gullible and easily plied, and then Alexander Dugin, who is, literally the leader of a group called National Bolsheviks, who are, I don't know how to describe them, but basically they're like a Russian offshoot of the Nazi party, essentially. There's an important distinction between Jimmy Dore and Alexander Dugin, and I wouldn't want to conflate them. I think that will lead to confusion.
Yeah. I don't think there is no. So that's what I'm saying. So I think that people are easily misled by Jimmy Dore is a boomer comedian. We don't expect him to be on top of everything, every little subgroup of political, But I think, to be fair, that stuff like the Proud Boys, he probably should have known about. But some of the more obscure.
You mean the Bugaloo Boys? Yeah. I got you, because he had like the I don't know, prominent Bugaloo boy on his show. Or is it Bugaloos? Probably.
Yeah. So it's one of those words I've been hearing about people saying, "Oh yeah, the Boogaloo Boys were left wing on strange Discord servers for years." So there was quite a lot of people trying to push that narrative that were very, and a lot of them were just literally just Russian disinformation. I literally spoke to them on Discord, just loads of random people with Russian accents going, "Oh yeah, you should just be you should just join up with the Nazis." And they're terrible at it as well. So that's why you can just see through it quite easily. But I don't think we can just.
Like, where are you finding them on Discord?
It was actually in another Caleb server that we know, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what is that guy's claim to fame? Because I kind of only know him as like a lolcow. Like what's that guy's deal? Caleb, we're talking about Caleb Maupin here.
No. I'm talking about Faraday Speaks. I forget his second name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm friends with yeah, we're in that chat together.
So I met quite a few Nazbols on his server. That they all kind of flooded to his server because he had a video go viral, didn't he? That was how I fell down the alt-right pipeline.
And he had a New York Times article written about him as well.
So I was a mod on his server, so I did get to see quite a lot of extremes on there. And maybe my perception of how big the problem is maybe a little bit magnified because I just want to recreate
this so I understand it. So you were a mod on Caleb's Discord, and it was flooded with all of these accounts. Like how would you describe these accounts before you ever talked to them? Like, what was the red flag about these guys?
A lot of them literally did identify as Russian trolls, and you'd speak to them, and they're like, "Yeah."
Okay.
And I literally spoke to one guy, and he told me he'd got a position. I think he wasn't Russian actually. I think he was. It was some other Eastern European country, and he was literally just telling us all on this Discord call that that's what he does. And he was like, "Yeah, you should just join us."
So this is a guy who's paid to.
It could have been a complete troll, but I met so many others that are just like, "No, this isn't actually a troll. It's real. They're really trying to do this." And it's like,
I mean, the existence of troll. When I first heard about troll farms, I was pretty skeptical. I was like, "Why would anyone pay for this?" But the existence of troll farms is not controversial. Like they 100% exist to sow like discord and disinformation. So these are allegedly accounts that were like paid to disrupt Caleb Kane's Discord server.
It seems like, or paid to at least
and what kind of stuff did they post?
Bring people over and to just Nazbol stuff, early Nazbol stuff. Lots of like kind of the left should join up with the right kind of stuff. Look how much we've got in common. Like lots of really cringe memes, and stuff.
Okay, they were posting. And like what kind of like memes were they posting?
So at the time I was. It's hard to describe the actual because as we say it's so decentralized, and so I don't think that there's one particular act. I think there are probably a few particular troll farms, but I don't think even they had a set narrative anyway. Like I said, it was more about just causing kind of confusion, and a lot of it literally was that. So if you ever went into the politics server that's run by Dobbs or Doobie, is it?
Okay, I'm not familiar with that person, but okay.
Okay. So there's a big, massive.
I don't spend a lot of time on Discord or Twitch. I'm not a Twitch guy, so you know.
So it was the person that was interviewed with Vosh the other day. Actually, they were on his on his panel. So there's this. It's called the politics server, but I call it the fascist server, and it's the biggest server I've ever seen. And there's thousands of them on there, and that's that. You should go on there and.
I'll check it out. And are they like harassing people? Are they being racist? What kind of what are they doing?
They're generally actually really quite polite and nice, and that's the scariest thing. That they act like friends, friend.
Are they like pushing you towards like Jimmy Dore and like a Tucker Carlson content or something like that?
They don't push you towards that, but they're like, oh yeah, well that stuff's okay. Yeah. Jimmy Dore's okay, and that kind of stuff. It's not like they're trying to push you towards that, but it's
okay. That's interesting. This experience as a moderator has made you like suspicious of like a lot of these like stupid pull dirtbag left types. Would that be fair to say?
So I've not really listened to a lot of them, but generally a lot of them I probably would listen to them, like because I enjoy Vosh kind of stuff. I enjoy the kind of edgier kind of. Political content myself anyway.
Vosh is very like against them though. Like he'll denounce those guys as like class reductionists though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm probably in the same kind of boat as Vosh. I think they're too focused on class to the point that they're trying to. They're pretty much inviting in fascists, aren't they? And I can see the point of trying to bring people over to the left, even fascists. Yeah. I do actually see there being a point of doing that, but. Generally, what they were doing then is before the election, they were almost supporting Trump more than trying to get rid of him. So it seemed more like just a disinformation campaign, or a voter suppression campaign, rather than
That's exactly a suspicion I have of Jimmy Dore, that he seems, and I'm not calling Jimmy Dore part of a red, black, brown alliance at all, but like him and people like him seem to exist primarily as an off-road from electoral politics. And it's not, if you were funneling them somewhere else, like on the ground activism or something like that, I wouldn't necessarily be critical of that. But they seem to be an off-road to nowhere. Just don't vote, tune out. The parties are the same, and if you do get involved in something, it seems like it would probably end up being like Republicans or Trump or someone like that, because from what I've seen, they're not very critical of the mainstream Republican Party, from what I've seen.
Yeah,
at least not overtly.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I share that suspicion of James Dore, who, to be fair, I have watched very little of. Chud and I were talking about this, and I joked that almost everything I've seen from Jimmy Dore was curated by that account Matthew Dimitri, who neither Chud and I are very big fans of, truthfully.
Okay, I've not heard of that. Matthew. Okay, so that's his editor, is it? I guess.
Yeah. Well, no, Matthew Dimitri is just a guy on Twitter who posts video clips, and sometimes his clips are rather deceiving or untruthful, including clips he's posted of Chud Logic personally, which I forget what he was saying about Chud Logic, but it just completely threw like any like nuance or context out the window in favor of like claiming outrage against him. In favor of drumming up outrage against him, and the thing Chud was saying in the clip was just totally anodyne and really not even very controversial. But Dimitri doesn't care about that. He's kind of a dishonest actor, in my opinion. With
Jimmy Dore, though, I think that it has become very apparent now. I mean, if you look at the pattern of behaviour, he was like trying to get people to not vote for the Dems in the election. And then as soon as that happened...
2 elections now, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah 2 elections. I wasn't really paying attention before. And then straight after that, he's launched straight into a force the vote thing that he knew that he was trying to push. So I can understand the strategy. He couldn't try and get them to not push Biden left. So instead, he's trying to push Biden further left than he knows that he can go, and then straight away launching a new fake third party called the MPP. It just seems like
I haven't even heard of that. The MPP. This is something that Jimmy Dore is backing.
Yeah, something. I think he's actually one of the original kind of founders of it as well. So it just seems like a real big dodgy grift.
And is this a third party or something?
Yeah.
And
so
and
I think he's also
assume that they exist to nominate Tulsi Gabbard in 2024.
Probably, yeah, most likely, yeah. I think they're all quite all Gabbard fans, aren't they? There, but I mean, I don't like dissuading a third party, because I think third parties can be useful as long as they're there to pressure the main party, not to sabotage them. So like a Green Party, and that was a real big problem last election with the Green Party. In the UK, we have a Green Party that's actually quite good at just being a pressure group rather than just there to steal elections. Like they'll work, tactically with votes and things like that. But the Green Party in America last year was really bad.
Well,
that was
So full disclosure, I'm not a Green Party believer by any means, but I did in fact vote for the Green Party in my election. Not because I'm a true believer, but because I said I wasn't voting for an Iraq war criminal ever again after Hillary, and I intended to stick by it. So I cast a vote for them. But the Green Party didn't play a role in the election this time around. They arguably didn't play a role in 2016, but they definitely didn't play a role this year.
They just seem to be there to steal votes rather than to add pressure, and I think that's really bad. That's really
I think that their approach to electoralism is innately flawed. It seems to rely on what I almost would disregard as like magical thinking. But I'm not really a fan of saying that they steal votes, because I feel like that's like that framing is like undemocratic. Like it is Joe Biden's job to win votes, and I think that any sort of framing.
I would say it would be undemocratic if we had a proper democratic system. If we had proportional representation, then yeah, totally. But as it stands in a two-party system, anything other than trying to pressure the party that you're most aligned with it's just vote suppression. And I think in England we recognise that, and the Green Party does ultimately. It did really try and split the vote actually to try and get rid of Corbyn, and that's where I did see how Green parties could act. But ultimately, when they're pressured, that they were there to kind of more back up the left wing side, and you can't really say that the Green Party in America shouldn't ultimately try and improve things and back up the Dems.
Like I said, I find what the Green Party does is like completely counterproductive. I like I said, I think that they misunderstand. I think they have a flawed theory of electoralism. Mm-hmm. I have an idea that there's two kinds of voters. There are voters who what's the way to say it? There are voters who are I guess the easiest way to say it is that there's pragmatic voters, and then there's like virtue voters. There's voters who are trying to make like they look at the option on the ballot and they say, okay, which one makes the most sense given what's likely to happen in the race. And they're essentially doing like a calculation, right? They're like, okay, well, maybe I like this candidate more, but they're polling at 2%, so it wouldn't make sense to do this. They're doing like a math problem, basically, right? Let's call them math problem voters. I just coined that term right now. They're math problem voters, right? And that voter is almost all voters. They're upwards of 90% of the electorate. Most people see it as a pragmatic choice in front of them that they'll get the best deal they can, basically. This is more, even though I am a Green Party or was a Green Party voter in 2020, this is more or less the view of voting that I subscribe to. But voting isn't a stand you take. It's something you do, right? But then there's the other type of voter, voting for whom, and I have friends like this, and like I'm almost like verbatim quoting them. For them, voting is a purely personal decision, and it's about you expressing your opinion. So if the candidate that speaks to you is, a obscure write-in candidate, well, that's fine. That's no problem. Just write that guy in, because he's the guy who speaks to your personal values. It's a personal decision, and those people are really annoying.
That would work under proportional representation. I would love that to be the case. I would love to be able to go and find the most obscure person who's got just some random great idea and put my name next to him as well, and know that my vote won't be lost in the greater scheme of things. You know what I mean? And that would be great.
You wouldn't even need proportional. I mean, you could do ranked choice voting would solve the problem as well.
There's lots of different solutions, but at the moment we are kind of stuck in this system, and it's like it would be great.
But what I was going to say is that those voters are annoying, but I don't think they're necessarily wrong, and the other voters are right. I think it's just forced into that choice, aren't we? Which is well, what I was going to say is that it's ultimately a subjective choice. It's about your values and how you see the world, and I think when you understand it like that, a lot of the animosity towards the third party voters kind of goes away, which I think is productive, because I think that the Democrats' hostility towards third parties is very misguided, if for no other reason than because it puts blame on voters instead of candidates, and that's just a flawed way of understanding elections. It's simply the only way to understand elections that makes sense is that it's the candidate's job to win voters, not the other way around.
I'm responsible. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to get back to the red-brown alliance, though. So when you say people like Peter Solar are right, like what specifically are they right about in your experience?
Well, whenever I've looked at whatever that account's been talking about, and there's the other account which is really quite woke.
He has me blocked, by the way, so I don't see his tweets ever.
Okay,
but go on.
And then there's that other account that's kind of in the group, which I forget the name of it.
Is it Gwen Snyder?
Gwen Snyder, yeah.
She has me blocked also.
Okay, yeah. So generally,
most of Twitter has me blocked.
Yeah, I'm quite similar actually. I've got quite a growing block list as well. So
I think I have more people blocked me than I have followers. I'm almost positive, actually.
Yeah, so I came into the situation thinking that they were, over exaggerating woke scolds kind of thing. But whenever you look into what they're saying, they're generally not wrong. They might be, I guess, being a bit controversial to get attention. I guess that's their strategy, which does seem to put me off a little bit. But they're generally right what they're talking about when they're talking about these kind of strange things going on that maybe need shining a light on.
So can you give an example of something they were right about? To me, they just seem to make very unhinged claims that don't seem to be based on anything. Gwen Snyder I don't know if you saw it, but she had an absolutely notorious thread that supposedly was about how Chapo Trap House, there was a Chapo Trap House to Nazi pipeline. But what the 100+ tweet thread actually talked about was some guy she knew in Occupy Wall Street and why he was bad. It had almost literally nothing to do with Chapo Trap House or Nazis. It was kind of insane to read.
A bit of a vendetta, maybe. Well, I don't really know too much of the details there, but generally, what I disagree with them about is that they tend to kind of scold the listeners rather than the actual hosts. What I would prefer they do with their big following is to actually, go after those hosts and challenge their ideas and just beat them in the marketplace of ideas, get a bigger audience than them. I find it astounding.
Right, but they're not going to do that because one, they are just committed to blocking everyone they don't like and crying harassment, and two, none of these people could produce a listenable podcast if their life depended on it. Who wants to listen to Gwen Snyder moan about some guy she knew in Occupy Wall Street 10 years ago? No one.
Well, maybe they should.
Have you ever listened to Chapo Trap House? It's actually pretty funny and entertaining, if nothing else, regardless of what you think about their politics.
No, but yes, I have. The one podcast which I really enjoyed was the one with my fellow Brummy. What's his name? The guy that wrote V Vendetta. Alan Moore. Will Menaker. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great interview. That was. The rest. No, I'm not really a fan. I'm not a fan of the whole aesthetic, really, of communism. As you probably know, I'm more of a liberal anyway. So I see that.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't identify as a Marxist.
Yeah, I'm kind of in between, actually. I'm kind of in between liberal and kind of a Marxist. So I find them.
Would you say you're a social democrat?
A bit cringe. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's what's closest to what I am. I'm kind of a radical.
Yeah, I think our politics are pretty close. Yeah, I think we're pretty close. One thing that's in the the heyday of 2017, when we were still living in the shadow of Trump's election, and just the institutions and system just seemed to be in tatters, and I was looking for a solution. I went through a phase where I identified as I tried to identify as a Marxist, but I think what sort of scared me straight is that the people behind the Marxist movement, I can't possibly imagine them leading a revolution that amounted to anything. It's clearly just a dysfunctional community.
Yeah, I think that's what I realized about. So I almost flirted with communism a little bit myself just before Jeremy Corbyn got in, and it wasn't that I was. It was more that I was tolerating them, and I was like, oh, they're harmless. Look, they're harmless. They're never going to win, are they? Let them have the fun. That's what I was thinking. And I laughed all the meow jokes as well. All the do you remember that meow?
Oh, wait, is this a pun about Mao and cats?
Yeah. And no.
I don't think I ever saw it, but it sounds fun.
The cat goes meow, and the person replies, no, you have to wait. We have to do. There's the whole method to this thing. It keeps going meow.
Yeah, that's
meow. Yeah.
That's not wait. So was it a pun about Chairman Mao?
It was a pun on killing landlords. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed the whole.
Yeah, that's not.
But yeah, I don't think that.
See, that stuff. I stay away from anything with a whiff of violence. I think that's something. I think you got to kind of commit to stuff to keep you on even keel when you're extremely online. And like, I don't know, people who go down that road and start, deciding that like violence is funny. I think that's kind of a bridge to nowhere.
Yeah. Also, I think that I've also come to the conclusion that communism is. It's a bit of a grift, a bit like fascism, really. It's very much the only people that have ever claimed to have achieved it have been authoritarians. So I don't buy into it. And generally, if you look at the past, they were expansionist imperialists. So they were just lying. They were a bit like fascists. They were just lying. They weren't,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Left wing.
Yeah, I probably have more to say about that, but I feel like I get myself in trouble if I just start babbling whatever's on my mind. Okay. This is probably more a venue for the written word, perhaps on medium.com.
Okay, I'll look forward to reading it.
Yeah, if I ever write it, which I probably won't. Speaking of like the shit posters, the dirt bags, the stupid pollers, the Red Brown Alliance. Do you know my friend Fooly Cooley on Twitter.com?
Yeah, I did have a few interactions with Fooly Cooley actually. Yeah.
Right. So he's pretty immersed in that environment. I'm going to guess you had some negative reactions. I'm just going to go on a limb there.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a disagreement. Yeah. Go on.
Can I ask about what?
I think it was actually back in woke brands. It was around about the time of 2019 when we were discussing woke brands and like brands supporting Black Lives Matter. And
woke brands, got it.
I think what they were actually getting at is that they wanted the government to ban companies from being woke, and I was like, no, that's authoritarian. That's not actually Fooly Cooley, but he did get involved with some of the replies, but with some of the people that were following Fooly Cooley, just like they were just libertarians. That's what they identified as. Don't tread on me kind of guys, and it was like, you guys aren't leftists.
Yeah. I would recommend, because if you ever manage to find my hidden YouTube channel, which is being shadow banned, but you can get to from my Twitter page, I did an episode of L9 AD with Fool. It's actually a 2-parter episode.
I did see that actually. I didn't see the second part, but I think that might have been how I found your channel. Well, that was one of the first episodes I saw of your channel anyway. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I thought that interview went pretty well, and I refer to Fooly affectionately as my frenemy, and we hash out a lot of these like these differences in I don't know, like our differences on these issues, and like I don't know, like I took issue with what really frustrates me about Fooly, which is his insistence on predominantly or maybe even only criticizing the left and other leftists, and never building things up.
Yeah, he's another orbiter of Peter Coffin as well, isn't he? And I don't know if you know, but I've had my whole.
I think he likes Peter Coffin.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but I've had a big massive spat with Peter Coffin back in the day. So we used to be friends. I used to be on a few Discord servers with him and chat with him a little bit, and he used to tweet out some of my content when I was a bit more Marxist. But then,
how long ago was this?
This was probably, I was one of the first people to be blocked by Peter Coffin, probably from back in, well, not the first, but yeah, since he went on his blocking spree. He just went a bit crazy. So even like sent out messages. So I was talking to someone else. In fact, it was. I'll tell you who it is. It's the Scott Blast guy, the Marxist Scott Blast guy. Something like
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, he's another person like Fooly Cooley anyway. And so I got into a discussion with him in DMs, and then I criticised Peter Coffin and said that he got a lot of dodgy, like kind of red-brown followers. And then he sent that message, and he forwarded it onto Peter, and then Peter tweeted it out with my profile and image on there and stuff, and started saying, see these people that they're spreading a network of lies and trying to badmouth me. And literally, this guy messaged me, and we just got onto the conversation of Peter Coffin, and he's so paranoid that there's like a whole network of leftists out to get him and stuff.
Yeah, he's so frantic on Twitter.com. So when you guys were friendly,
he's out to cancel himself. Yeah, he's just out to cancel himself. After our spat, he just seems to have gone down.
It's like he found the vampire castle too bougie, so he wanted to build his own. But like when you guys were friends,
that's a good description actually. He's built his own vampire castle. Yeah,
he's building his own. Yeah. When you guys were friendly, like what year was that? How long ago was that?
Probably like end of 2018, 2019. Probably,
okay.
Midterm elections when Bernie was probably at his peak of cool kind of popularity.
Right. That makes sense. He's a guy who like seems to. I don't really follow him very closely or watch his videos, but he seems to reinvent him. It seems like he reinvented himself a few years ago. Like he was almost like he was like during like Gamergate, he was like a SJW type, battling Gamergate, and now he's done a total 180 on that.
Yeah. So I did
find
one of his early videos is where he's just criticizing Sargon of Akkad. Actually, I think that was one of his videos. Yeah, like
he also did a music video about he did a music video about being a woke male feminist ally too.
Yeah, he's like
back when he still looked like Zach Braff.
Oh, sorry. We should be calling it. We shouldn't be misgendering. We should be.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right about that. Sorry, my mistake.
They're just out for a little bit of cancelling. So the very first tweet that even says Peter Coffin is cancelled from that Milo Yiannopoulos interview that he was going to do. They were going to do.
Oh yeah, that one. At MythCon where my friend Justin went, and Milo ended up debating Mr. Destiny. Yeah.
So the very first tweet came from Peter that was saying Peter Coffin is cancelled, and like just made a whole thing that they're about to be cancelled and cancel themselves. And it seems very much like what Gina's doing at the moment as well, where she's like just baiting being cancelled.
What Gina Carano's doing?
Yeah, what Gina Carano's doing. Yeah, it's a career move, isn't it? If you get yourself cancelled. So.
I mean, it can be. It can certainly be if you manage to play it right. There are a lot of people who like seem like so overtly to be like angling for that. Like Bridget Fedesi is one of them, and like it's so. Ariel Scarcella is another one, and it's so like. It's so artless, like, oh, I just wore a MAGA t-shirt and I got canceled. It's like, yeah, very, very good.
I really am considering doing it myself to jump in on that whole grift, because I really have been cancelled. I've been permanently banned from Reddit. I get constantly shadow banned on Twitter, where I can't be a reply guy. Other people build a whole career out of being a reply guy, but Twitter apparently, no, they won't let me do it. They just put me into
right. Yeah, that's not fair. I think these days you have to have a real angle.
My voice, cancelled from the public square, just as much.
I think these days to be one of these like I'm leaving the left guys, I think you need like a really strong angle, because I think it's a pretty oversaturated market.
Oh, well, I'm not leaving the left. I'm using the cancel culture angle. That's what I'm talking about. Actually calling out real cancel culture, and things like we were saying, blacklists of people that have talk out about their industry and things like that. These things really exist.
Mm-hmm.
That's real cancel culture. And like you were saying, like, I do think that, corporate cancel culture probably, I've met HR departments anyway, put it that way. So I can understand how that it could become quite abusive. But I don't think that's our biggest issue.
I would say so.
I think that there is equally.
Okay, that framing right there. I have to, and I've been trying to retire from cancel culture discourse in order to have a more refined discourse about what I see as incentivized cruelty on social media, and how it's seeping into the mainstream culture in stuff like, for instance, what we saw happen at the New York Times this week, for example. But so I'm sort of trying to retire, but like when people say like, oh, it's a problem, but it's not a big problem. It's hardly our most pressing issue. Like I don't think that's a reasonable way to approach an issue, because either this is a problem and there are victims of it, or there's not. And if there are, in fact, victims, if there are people suffering, if there are people being treated unfairly by their employer, by their HR department, by online mobs, by their friends at school, whoever it is, doesn't it behoove us as leftists to offer compassion and support for these people? Isn't that kind of what the whole game is?
Yeah, totally. But to the right people, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, no. See, that is the whole problem. That is the entire disconnect right there. To the right people. Yes, because what you're saying there, what that becomes is a game of gatekeeping.
No.
Right? Like now it's about making sure that we don't let the wrong people in.
No,
and I think that okay, explain.
I said, let me explain. So my reason for saying not to the right people is because we can see the systemic barriers that are against the little guy. So really, that's the reason that you would always try to be fighting for them. But you're right, though. We can use big people on the right as case studies of something that we're against, and we shouldn't just be hypocritical and just ignore it when it's something that just only affects our side. And I do agree with that, but I just think that the whole cancel culture issue is so slanted towards seeing it as being big influencers not being accepted in the marketplace of ideas anymore. And it's like, no, that's the marketplace of ideas.
I agree with you about that. Okay, I agree with what you said about the conversation being slanted towards like the Gina Carano's and Chris Pratt's and J.K. Rowling's. I completely agree with that, and that's part of why I want to retire from the cancel culture discourse and start a smarter conversation somewhere else. But here's the thing. Here's the criticism that I don't think the left is hearing. One of the reasons why Gina Carano dominates the cancel culture discourse, and teachers who are fired, or like union workers who are fired under at will employment are ignored, is because the left has refused to take up this issue. The left has been hiding our heads and saying, "Oh, it's not, cancel culture is not real." Actually, instead of saying, "Hey, there's an interest in this. Let's use it as a bludgeon against at-will employment, a bludgeon against the ruling class, a bludgeon against abusive HR departments." Why don't we do that?
I do think that that's a good idea now, actually. That's why I'm talking about it. That's why I think that is a good thing to talk about cancel culture. Because as I said, if you go onto YouTube and you type in modern fascism, the name of my video, my most popular video essay, it doesn't come up, even if you type it in quotes. And that's, and I can understand the nature of why, because of the word fascism included, but it's still the stuff
you think they're bearing it because you said fascism?
I think it's more that I'm actually talking about the disinformation around fascism. That video in particular is where I did a deep dive onto a lot of the stuff that a lot of these woke scoldies were talking about that seemed kind of non-issues.
Who are you referring to as woke scoldies? So when you say that term, who do you mean?
So like Gwen Snyder, people like that. That's what they often get derided as woke scoldy. And I can see the criticism as wise, because they're a little bit abrasive sometimes. And I think that
a little bit abrasive. I think that might be an understatement of Gwen Snyder and Peter Solar. But yes, okay, I'll agree with you.
Yeah, and I also do disagree with the whole going after individuals, doxing them. I can understand that there needs to be societal pressure against bad things, but I think that it does kind of bring on a whole vigilante kind of culture that's
it brings out a. I think that the left is preoccupied with a moralistic strain of thinking that is overly concerned about bad people getting in, and what it results in is a militant kind of gatekeeping that I think it has been so destructive and counterproductive, to the extent where when you have cases like our friend Chud Logic being demonetized on YouTube, a really important journalist named well, I don't want to overstate it, but an important journalist named Ford Fisher being demonetized on YouTube. Nathan J. Robinson being fired for speaking about Palestinian rights from the supposedly
I had a video on QAnon and stuff like that, but now I'm seeing people like Chud Logic and stuff like that getting demonetized, and it's like, well, you know, it's an incentive not to, isn't it? And that's why they are trying to shut down.
It is.
Now that, you know,
it is, but also I want to add that we see so little but we see so little interest in these issues on the left, even when it's our own, and I think that's because we're preoccupied with the gatekeeping rules, because we're preoccupied with this idea that they're keeping us safe from the bad people, and I think that's been a tremendously counterproductive idea.
I don't think that is the case anymore. I mean, even like the serfs, you know, the incident with the serfs as well. Yeah,
they just got demonetized. There seems to be more interest in that because they're like fairly big.
And that's been quite a big interest in that. And and I think that's why we should talk about that now. It's not so much cancel culture, it's suppression of information, really, and ideas. And I think I can understand why you'd want to suppress certain ideas, but when it gets to that point where it's just you're dulling the creativity of the culture, I think at certain points where it becomes
well, but why does YouTube care about the creativity of the culture? YouTube got to a point in their growth, and it wasn't recent, it's happened a long time ago, where they had to pick, are we a platform for the small independent creators, or are we here for the networks and the legacy media to be another revenue stream for them? And when they looked at their bottom line, it wasn't a difficult decision to make. And so they've been moving in that direction ever since. They don't care about the creativity of the culture.
I think they will do eventually. I think yeah.
You think they'll do what eventually? Come around to like nurturing small creators?
Well, they did already. They had that creator program where they invested loads of money into them. And I think that's where they went wrong, is that they invested too much money into people like, you remember Philip Dorenko, people like him. I watched him from when he was a very, very, very small YouTube creator, and I watched him grow and then become part of. Are you talking
about Philly D?
Yeah, Philly D. Yeah. Okay. You were a consumer of Philly D. I stopped watching him for a little while, but yeah, I think that it was good the way that they invested in this partner program, where they invested in a load of YouTubers and stuff like that. But it did make it a little bit fake. I would have preferred to have actually seen them really grow organically, a lot of those smaller ones. And it did create this big divide between the two, in almost the digital divide between the different creators and consumers.
I'd have to know more about the program to really make an argument, but it just seems like, oh, they invested in a handful of hand curated small content creators, and I don't know, help them out. Yeah. While meanwhile passing these opaque, draconian, punitive laws against literally probably millions of content creators.
Yeah.
So it just seems more like a PR move to me, but I don't know enough about the program, so I can't say.
I don't want to get too conspiracy minded, but it seems to me that generally the right wing conspiracy crazy stuff obviously gets a much bigger, easier time on it. It has done for the past. It did do for the past 4 or 5 years. When you saw videos, like crazy video, QAnon videos with millions of views. It's probably not the same. I don't see any kind of suggestions like that anymore. It's probably because I've tried to clean my suggestions, and I need to do that with my mom's actually as well. So even my mom's got into not quite QAnon, but yeah.
Wow, that's kind of scary.
Yeah,
I would freak out if my parents got into stuff like that.
Well, that's kind of what spurred me on to be motivated to kind of combat that kind of stuff a bit more, because I don't really.
And that's in the UK. That always blows my mind that like QAnon is like popping off in like other countries when it's such like an American pro-Trump. And I know there's Trump fans abroad, obviously, but it just strikes me as like such an American movement to hear it. Like
that's why the whole red brown thing does go a lot deeper than maybe than you think. There is quite a big in France. In France, I've seen it as well. There's the whole red brown issue where there were. In fact, the yellow vests was a movement like that, which was one I actually thought I could get behind. I thought, well, yeah, actually, yeah, maybe the left and right could join together. But when you saw where that led, like the yellow vest movement in particular, in Canada,
So where did it lead?
In Canada, they all ended up supporting the oil companies. The yellow vests were like, it was we're supporting and you know, protecting the pipelines and stuff like that. And in France, they just ended up being quite a far right movement, and in the UK as well. They just all fizzled out into anything where they try and work with the right. They fizzle out and end up just being a right wing thing, and I do think there's something about the nature of trying to work with anyone that's too far right that it's bound to fail, and it's also it's a con. Because
okay, I can't diagnose the problems with the yellow vests, which was a very European movement that my American brain probably doesn't fully understand. But I can't help but feel like part of what's happening here is the left is failing to present something to the angst-ridden masses that are looking for change, are hungry for a vision and a message, but the left isn't providing one. So people like Bannon and Steve Bannon and people like them are sort of stepping in. We're allowing people like Bannon to step in and fill that void, which I think is a good transition to your stonks video, if you get where I'm going.
Yeah. So actually, that is quite a good transition over, because I think Steve Bannon and Nigel Farage, both big, up to their necks in hedge fund guys, friends, in that whole that similar network of far right, populist.
And Steve Bannon is a guy who I think has done a great job of picking up like leftist sounding language and messaging and using it in service of a far right-wing agenda. I think he's been actually kind of scarily good at it.
Well, not just far right agenda, but more actually the top-down far right agenda, which is kind of more related to big capital that wants to repress workers, that has an interest in having fascism. I mean, there's so many different interests of pushing fascist ideology. You've got the state itself that wants that wants a little bit of nationalism, if not outright fascism in many cases. You've got big companies that want to repress left-wing causes. You've got the petrol companies that want to repress. There's so many different interest groups, or just different interests that had actually aligned at that point, that it did seem like that all converged into one big kind of conspiracy at one point with QAnon. It just seemed to be kind of diverging a little bit.
And with Trump before, Trump was kind of like an all-purpose lightning rod for stuff like that. But take us into your stonks video. Like, explain your thesis. Okay.
So my thesis is that it could just very easily be one of those guys that owns a big hedge fund that's pushing populist rhetoric. It's like, oh yeah, guys, let's all get behind this stock now. Let's all get behind that stock, and pumping it up and then dumping on them. And just maybe if they do screw over another hedge fund, so like Citadel actually ended up loaning them the other Melvin Capital $3 billion. What do you think that's going to do?
And Melvin Capital is the hedge fund that was shorting the stock, and they're the guys that really took the bath on it.
But apparently, they're all, including Robinhood, they were all kind of buddies, really, weren't they? So Robinhood was feeding Citadel the customer data that tells them when they're buying and selling, so that they can front run it and get it at a better price. It seems like one big one, to be honest, where all the big guys were working together to screw over little guys to get them to buy in and think that they were screwing. That's honestly, that's what I think. I haven't got full evidence for it, but I think it will come out eventually.
So your position here is, and I think it's a smart video. I think people should check out this video, because I mean it's probably I think when you came out with this video, it was very much like a contrarian take, like the winds were blowing very much in a like, hey, look at this story, this is great, the little guy wins. Yeah, and you were like very much swimming upstream from that message.
So at the time, so yeah, even now I've looked, and I'm pretty much the only person that's pushing that was saying that, that's saying this whole message. But yeah, at the time especially, there was no one that was really challenging it. Everyone was pretty much in agreement. Oh yeah, we're defeating the hedge funds, and it just seemed too good.
I feel like it actually came, like the conventional wisdom kind of came more around to you, because I think now, like especially when you see like where the story went, I think that this is like the conventional wisdom. Like it sort of, whatever it started at, it turned into kind of a pump and dump. And as usual, you know, the house always wins. The little guy gets fleeced.
There was no other way for it to end, was it? Other than the last people that buying in getting dumped on. There was no other way for it to happen. There was no other way for it to end.
Especially when as you were saying, the actual business model is that Robinhood, which offers its services for free, meaning that the user is actually the product. What they're actually doing is selling their data to other hedge funds, so that they can make bets on the market. So it turns out all to be rigged all along, anyways.
Yeah. Which is generally how markets tend to be. But markets tend to get cornered and rigged a lot of the time. But especially
what's your economics background again? Because this stuff is like, I don't know much about this stuff, but you seem to have a pretty good handle on it.
So I was just desperate, and I was trading. I was desperate to earn a bit of my money back that I'd lost from Bitcoin. So I just desperately tried to study the markets and see how they worked. And like, I was studying like the order books, and like trying to work out who was on the other side, and like working out that like, there was obviously big hedge funds and how they were like moving the order books to make it look like there was lots of support, but actually there wasn't really a lot of support and things like that. And I was just like, I just got to understand how the markets end up being manipulated by the hedge funds through the order books, as well as like generally like the messaging that was going out through certain populists and people like that. You know, when it's I guess season, when it's a certain season, they all start shifting their narrative. And
were you trading on Robinhood or a service or a retail service like that?
No. I was just on Coinbase. I just used Coinbase. I was desperate, and I watched loads of videos and things, and worked out how like the forex markets work, about how big hedge funds like pressure prices one way, and then let it spring back another way, and it's quite ingenious. But yeah, it relies on having millions of little guys pushing it one way or another. And that's what was obvious to me. It was happening at the time. It was the little guys that were pushing it off. It wasn't the short squeeze pushing it. Maybe that was adding to it. I do think that there was probably truth in the whole short squeeze thing initially, but there was no other way for it to end other than the hedge funds winning anyway, because they're hedged, aren't they? And literally what happened is one hedge fund is about to consume another. And I think that's one angle that I wanted to go at, is that hedge funds having increasing control and becoming bigger and bigger monopolies. I think that's a really bad thing, especially for leftists to analyze that, because hedge funds are actually incentivized to reduce workers' rights and things like that, because they want to because they're like the biggest investors in companies. Hedge funds, pension funds are, and they've got a fiduciary responsibility to earn as much money as possible, which means that they have a legal responsibility to be as devious as possible and extract as much from companies and to only care about the bottom line, really. But hedge funds kind of the backbone of the capital that's driving a lot of the anti-worker kind of propaganda. So
when you say it like that, though, see, what I worry about is I think that you like, I think essentially you get it seems like you basically get stocks correct. Like it's like, yeah, this isn't a system where the retail traders win. Actually, that the house always wins, right? But like, there's another angle to it where like you play a clip of like Sargon of Akkad talking about it, and his angle is, look, these hedge funds are scumbags. They're directly against you, right? The little guy. They're the ones fucking you over, and you get to see them take a bath, which many of them definitely did. Isn't there something to? There's something to that. Like, it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be like a Robin Hood story. It just has to be a story where some guy you hate gets fleeced, and that's fun to watch. You know? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that wasn't that. I don't think it was them getting fleeced and then laughing about it, which, yeah, is the opposite.
Yeah. Like in a way, and I don't mean this as a criticism, but you're almost like the guy in the stadium who's like, oh, well, your football team won, but how is that going to make your life? Just because they beat the other team, is that going to make your life better? And it's like, no, you're right, it won't. But I got to see I got to see the other guys lose, and I enjoyed that. Let me have that thing.
If that's what it was, then fair play to them. But I really don't think that I don't think they will end up thinking that in years to come. I don't think. I think that they'll have they've got a little fleeting feeling in the back of their mind that something's gone wrong, and it's going to grow and continue to grow. And yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind being that guy. Fair enough. I'll be that guy.
Sure. Yeah. You sometimes we need that guy. You know, sometimes we absolutely need that guy. But what I worry is that the left has increasingly taken a position of deference towards the institutions, towards the status quo, of propping up the hedge funds while modeling deep skepticism towards the retail traders, who several publications either implied or outright said that they were like racist online like 4chan trolls with no real evidence to back that up. What I see time and time again is like mainstream left-wing voices taking the position of not of the small guy, but of the big institutions. And I think that that's like a betrayal of like core left-wing values.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what my point is. That's exactly my point.
Okay.
That's exactly my point. The fact that they all think that the fact that they're literally jumping on board something that people like Sargon of Akkad are pushing them to be dumped on. And like, did you see what he was saying? He was trying to make out that people with less money have less of an effect from losing money.
Right. He's saying because you'll lose. I
wanted to punch him.
Yeah.
I probably would do for Seam.
Right. Yeah, and especially since in Minecraft, you're going to do that in Minecraft, but especially since, I mean, what I forget what the name of that hedge fund was, but the big one that took the bath. What happened? Well, they ended up getting a windfall of cash from investors to cover it anyways. You know, they got $3 billion to cover them, so they didn't end up taking the bath. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Limited liability company. They're not taking any haircut. They're just having maybe a lesson and maybe not. I don't know, but I think that ultimately it seemed like an exit scam before they thought that Biden was going to put through a load of regulation. That's what it looked like to me. It was like they've been trying to push gold for ages. So, like I said in that other thread that I'd seen, like people on Rush today trying to like pump the price of gold, and fear-based reporting does. Whenever there's fear, whenever there's, we look at the price of gold, whenever there's like, big incidents, always, it's a thing that people flock to So therefore, if you're a big gold investor, you are incentivized to want there to be, chaos and things like that, and to be, to be, things like fascist leaders to rise up, things like that. And it's like, it's all a big grift. That's what it looks like to me, especially when you see like the way that a lot of those disaster capitalists and hedge funds work. They literally thrive on there being, volatility and being bad things happening. So that they'll benefit the more that climate change ravages the planet. And it's quite a sick business plan when you see it like that. Like they'll do things like shorting, like commodities and things like that if they see a famine coming. And yeah, it seems like I do see the need for there to be like hedge funds and even shorting as well. But
what is the purpose of hedge funds? Because that's opaque to me. I don't get that stuff. Like, what is the purpose of a hedge fund?
So I just think they've got too much power at the moment. They've got the whole financial industry has just got too much power. It needs regulating.
Yeah, but you said that you see the purpose of them. I'm just curious what that is, because I don't know.
Well, in terms of having, storing value and having, I think it should be a lot more collective. I think we need a lot more of a national insurance policy that can actually give people a livable pension as well. I think we're far too reliant on private pensions and things like that. But I do think that, like I'm a sock them. I do think that we should have a mixed economy, even in pretty much all industries, even in pensions. People should be able to have a choice. But it seems at the moment that we're slaves to pension funds at the moment. And the most ironic thing is that it's for our own retirement. We're slaves to our own retirement at the moment, and it's quite an irony that I'm trying to draw out in a video that I'm creating at the moment.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean we're slaves to our own retirement?
We're literally. So what happened in the 70s? What happened in the 70s was a group of investors came over from the UK, led by Zach Goldsmith, who came and deregulated. They were called corporate raiders, and they came and invested into, and they started a culture where they were like ripping out, old people that worked there, making the company more efficient. A lot of the time, it was like a pump and dump scheme, but what they were incentivized to do is get rid of all dead weight, make the company more efficient. In brackets, more efficient. A lot of the time, it did just ruin those companies and sent the jobs overseas and stuff like that. But they were making out like they were revolutionizing the companies. But once their tactic of corporate raiders became the norm, then all the pension funds had to do that as well because they had a fiduciary responsibility. So now the hedge funds the pension funds are now the things that are being the biggest force against workers. Ironically.
Yeah. So they don't want your employer to have to cover your pension, basically, because it's a drain on capital. Am I picking it up here?
Yeah. So the more that the hedge funds become consolidated, the more that they have power to put against workers. It's basically the struggle between capital and workers, and it's now kind of gone into our pensions. So it's like an ironic kind of twist where we're held captive to our pension funds, to our and that seems to be the biggest force. It's not even just like groups like fossil fuel industries that are the main pushers of like anti-worker kind of propaganda. It's actually them. They're the main interest group behind kind of repressing your standards of living while you're working, so that you can. And that's the thing. The more that they consolidate, the less that they're actually going to end up giving you in your retirement. You know what I mean? Because there's less of a competitive market if they do become more consolidated.
So we kind of got into no, it's good. I don't understand this stuff, so it's good for me to listen to it. You did a good job. But back to the main thrust of the show, which is Twitter feuds. You and I sort of got into an argument about your video online. I wanted to hash that one out, because this is all about squashing beef and broing it out. That's the main focus of this show, of my chat show. I had a hot take.
Give me a hot take.
Yeah, you've seen it before because you replied to it, but I'm gonna read it for the viewer, the listener. Here we go. Jimmy Kimmel has been brainwashed into being a corporate woke Manchurian candidate by Robin DiAngelo and Disney TV execs. I stand by that. I think I nailed it.
So what have you got against Robin DiAngelo? I've not really seen the whole controversy with her, other than that she's written a book about fragile white people. I don't really.
Yes. That is the least of her. So here's all you need to understand about Robin DiAngelo. Robin DiAngelo is a woman a white lady who drapes herself in the language of like woke intersectionality, and is even claimed to be like a socialist of some kind. But what her job is she's a henchman for corporate interests. She's hired by them to appear on site and lecture the employees about their racism for the purpose of protecting the employer's liability. And also, I think that there is a very paternalistic. It's not even subtext, really. It's right out in the open. A paternalistic message that listen, your employer is looking out for you. They're protecting you from your fellow employees who are all racist and harmful towards you. So luckily they're here and they sent me to protect you from them. And if we weren't here, then who knows what your fellow employees would do. And some people have called it like a low-key form of union busting. And I think that might sound a little conspiratorial, but I think there's something to that. This tweet's not really about Robin DiAngelo, though, but that's it in a nutshell.
So we did have a whole discussion about this throughout, and I can see where you're coming from. I do think there are genuine neoliberals that do use kind of like woke politics in order to obfuscate from kind of.
I think if someone were to suggest otherwise, that there were not, I would literally think they were insane, because it's just so self-evident that there are.
Yeah, but I do think that they're less so than people like to make out. I think that a lot of that does end up becoming kind of a bit of a fascist talking point when you're just calling everything kind of woke neoliberalism. Because like
I don't know, man.
Especially the word neoliberalism. Like I don't want to get back into deep economics again, but like neoliberalism is very much an economic issue. So yes. it may use cultural kind of sidelines
and keep right. And Robin DiAngelo's job is in fact to protect their liability from lawsuits. That's what she exists to do. And which isn't even necessarily a problem. But my issue is that she does it by abusing the employees.
Yeah, but again, neoliberalism seeks to reduce workers' rights in terms of their actual material, like take home pay, rather than scolding like racist people. I think that's kind of the bigger kind of economic struggle. I do think that obviously there is an issue.
So wait. Let me ask you this. When your employer hires Robin DiAngelo to come teach you about your racist original sin, is there motivation that they're concerned about like a non-woke racism and they're committed to anti-racism, or is there concern their own liability if there were to be some kind of racial incident at their job? Like why is Robin DiAngelo?
It's probably a mixture of both, isn't it? Just like everything.
I think it's very much the second. I think it's very much the latter, rather. I think she's there.
You can't always assume that the people that hired them were doing it necessarily nefariously. I do think that she's a grifter. I don't
think there's anything nefarious about it. I think that this is exactly what. I mean, we all know that this is how these corporations work. I don't think there's anything really nefarious about it, like any more than there is saying like, oh, like your employer doesn't really care about you. He's actually out for the bottom line. Of course, that's true. It's self-evidently true.
Yeah, but. For example, I've worked in some organizations where there has been a big kind of a toxic culture of just a boys club kind of culture. And I don't think that solve that with HR necessarily. I I think you can. It just comes. It can only happen naturally. I think those kind of change, and I think that's where I kind of agree with you. I don't think you can just kind of force that down in a top-down PR kind of way, because if anything, you might
just for the record, this diversity, inclusion, equity industry, which is like a multi-billion-dollar industries. There's quite a lot of data into it, and it pretty transparently just doesn't work. It doesn't result in more diversity at the company. It doesn't result in any better outcomes. There's quite a lot of data debunking it.
I can imagine some people in some organizations thinking, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, that we can kind of diversify and get some better ideas and things like that, you know, if we have more. But I don't think it's always that nefarious. I don't think it's not neoliberalism anyway. There are genuinely people that use kind of woke politics as a form of neoliberalism, as a way to obfuscate from kind of inequality. And I think that I would agree with you there if she was doing that, but I don't think that. I think she's just more being just kind of a bit of an annoying kind of.
Just to be clear, I don't think like this is her agenda. I think that this is the agenda of the people who hire her.
Oh yeah, maybe maybe some people use her for that kind of.
I'm sure Robin DiAngelo. I mean, if she really cared about anti-racism, she would probably give up this grift and find something that actually had tangible results. Also, I think that if she really cared about anti-racism, she probably wouldn't be a white lady profiting off of Black Lives Matter. But other than that, I think that Robin DiAngelo basically believes this stuff. She's just full of shit. It's the corporate interests she serves that are the true, like, sinister forces here.
Okay. Have you seen the new Adam Curtis documentary? I'm sure you haven't. It's very long.
No. We talked about it, but what is it about? What's the gist of it?
Okay, so it's this one in particular is about everything. It's almost like a work.
My favorite topic, everything.
Yeah, it's a bit too hard to explain, but he does touch on a lot of that stuff, and he also touches on a lot of the content is actually just about conspiracy stuff, which would have tied back into the conspiracy researchers.
Are you saying that Adam Curtis addresses Robin DiAngelo and white fragility?
No, but in the article where he's talking about corporate kind of wokeness.
Okay. What's Adam Curtis's take on corporate wokeness? For it or against it?
So it's similar to what you were saying. That it seems to be kind of a less productive way of tackling it anyway. And he was more in support of more bottom-up kind of movements like Black Lives Matter and things like that, which I agree with as well. So yeah, I think that's the right take against that kind of corporate wokeness. I think that a lot of the time it's confused with neoliberalism, and it can be oppressive, but I don't think it's necessarily the biggest kind of, I think you're right. It's generally just them covering the bottom line, just like with Mandalorian star Gina.
Okay. That brings us back to a point I was going to make, because I didn't bring up Jimmy Kimmel being a brainwashed Manchurian candidate out of the blue. I actually brought it up in conjunction with a point about stonks, which was Jimmy Kimmel had this bit. I have the video right here, but I can't share it with you, which is annoying. But
as I said, I'm not a fan of Jimmy Kimmel. So go on.
This isn't about being a fan of Jimmy Kimmel, though. That's not what we were disagreeing on. So Jimmy Kimmel does this bit where he's talking about game stonks, and at one point in his monologue, he implies that game stonks was actually caused by Russian disruptors, which I thought was like a ludicrous and absurd thing to say. That he must have felt humiliated being on stage uttering such a ridiculous sentence. Was my take on that.
Well, as I said, he has strong Peter Coffin vibes. I can see him kicking himself in the balls for.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
But I can also see where he's kind of coming from. So the way I see it is that those same hedge funds that were like pushing, the silver squeeze and stuff like that are on Russia today.
What's this? I don't know what the silver squeeze is.
Okay, so
you just mean promoting silver and gold online.
Yeah. So there is a big
Okay.
crossover between people on Russia Today and like a lot of the libertarians that are pushing the silver squeeze that have been for years, or pushing gold as well. So I
Yeah.
can see where he's coming from. But no, I don't think it's just purely a Russiagate thing. I think it's very much like
Okay.
it was an organic thing with hedge funds, I think, and with a load of crazy retards.
It seemed to me like a rather pathetic attempt to discredit the Wall Street Bets subreddit but instead of by making an intelligent argument like you did, just by saying some stupid nonsense. And it confused me when you argued with me about it, because what Jimmy Kimmel was saying seemed to be at odds with the thesis that you laid out in your own video that at the time I had just watched. So it was weird to me that you were like sort of defending Jimmy to some extent.
So, like I said, what really, 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 really baffles me is how that guy is got a position on TV and manages to keep it, because whenever I've downloaded this stuff, it's so unfunny. I don't understand how
he's awful. He sucks. He's terrible.
He does just seems. Yeah, and maybe he is a bit of a neoliberal, to be fair, and he's probably on the maybe not just on the side of the hedge funds, but on the side of the establishment that doesn't want to see that people can start doing. So I think if we could actually do go after proper short squeezes with hedge funds that was organised by people, but that would just be illegal, wouldn't it?
Probably, although I think who would they be organized by? Like, who would organize those things?
I think that if there was a real risk of it really damaging the hedge funds, I don't think it would have got to the stage that it got to, really.
Well, but I mean, there sort of was an inorganic attempt to shut it down, and I understand what's going on with Robinhood. So Robinhood, the app, shut down trading on GameStop.
Yeah,
I get it.
A genuine conflict, but really, it seems to me like a conflict between two big guys rather than more between the little guys.
Fair enough.
They were always going to be the ones that were going to pay the price.
So just to be clear, you and I are in agreement that GameStop was probably not driven by Russian disruptors.
I think that there may be a crossover with the same hedge funds, though. I do think that I'm open to that idea. I've got no
crossover with the same hedge funds.
Yeah. So so you're aware of the other big stock guy? What's his name on Russia Today? A really annoying guy with a voice like this. Max Kaiser.
I don't know.
Max Kaiser.
I don't know that. I'm not really familiar with him, though.
Max Kaiser, well, he's always pushing certain things, and he's got to be a front for big hedge funds. There's no way. And he was pushing exactly the same narratives. And so, yeah, I do think there's probably some Russian hedge funds that were involved as well. But just as likely, it was hedge funds from our side as well. So, yeah, no, I'm not a Russiagator. I just think that the whole all the countries are corrupt. They've all got corrupt people.
Yeah. Fair enough. My conspiracy wheels are kind of spinning with this Jimmy Kimmel thing, because I look at Jimmy Kimmel in this clip, and he just has this look of fear in his eyes. Like it's unmistakable to me. He's terrified of stepping out of line. Right now I'm thinking, right, and my conspiracy wheels are spinning. Right. We had this story this week where Gina Carano was fired from her Star Wars TV show for her bad tweets, right? That was this week. Everyone's talking about it. I've tried to stay out of it, but I keep getting sucked in. This is what everyone's talking about this week, right?
Yeah, it's your territory, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Jimmy Kimmel had a scandal. Also, they uncovered like years worth of like blackface comedy routines that he like got in trouble for over, I don't know, the summer or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, you are familiar with what I'm talking about, right?
I think vaguely, yeah. I think, yeah. So you think that he's doing this whole performative wokeness thing is just a way to appease his fans.
Hear me out here. Hear me out here. It's interesting that Gina Carano and Jimmy Kimmel are employed by the same parent company. Lucasfilms is owned by Disney, and I believe Jimmy Kimmel's show is on ABC, also a Disney corporation, a Disney company.
Right. Okay.
So it's interesting to me that what Jimmy Kimmel had to do is he had to like go away for the summer and do like anti-racism training or something like that. It's interesting that Jimmy Kimmel was sort of given a way back in, whereas Gina Carano was like unceremoniously fired. Now, there's a lot of things that might explain that. You know, no two situations are identical, but just it's interesting to me that Kimmel was given a way back in rather than just being like given the Gina Carano treatment.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe your conspiracy wheels are ticking over time, like mine do as well.
Maybe. So he had to do like anti-racism training. Then he had to come back and do this bit on the Emmys where he let another Anthony Anderson I don't know, like browbeat him and like yell at him on stage about being woke. It was pretty pathetic to watch. It left an impression in my brain just because I don't think I'd ever seen like someone have to debase themselves like that on primetime television. It was a very, very strange performance.
Bending the knee.
Yeah, I think it was a figurative bending of the knee. That's the conspiracy that I'm getting at. I think Kimmel might be afraid to step out of line.
I don't think it goes that big though, because you do get some good, genuinely good people that do come out of that similar kind of comedy network. People like John Oliver and Jon Stewart. I enjoy those two.
They came from Comedy Central though, which might be, for all I know, is a Disney company too. I'm actually not sure.
Okay, I just assumed they were part of the same kind of establishment network kind of thing.
Stephen Colbert is on one of those networks now, but I'm not sure.
I enjoyed Stephen Colbert much more when he was his old persona. He does seem quite cringe.
I haven't seen I don't watch any of those shows, so I have no. I mean, I watched The Daily Show and Colbert Report, but these late night shows, I've never seen any of them. I don't watch that stuff, so I have no idea.
Colbert Report anymore, but I used to watch his old show. Do you remember his old show?
Not the Colbert Report, a different old show. Strangers with Candy. I watched that.
No, it was the Colbert Report, but it was it was the Colbert. What's his current show?
Oh, I don't. It's just called like late night with Stephen Colbert or something. I don't.
Yeah.
The Stephen Colbert Show.
Yeah. So
but the one where he played like a Bill O'Reilly character. That was a fun show.
Yeah,
that was a fun show.
I enjoyed that time of American TV, but yeah, since those days I haven't downloaded anything. It's just been Jimmy Kimmel and Samantha Bee and stuff like that, and it's gone quite cringe, hasn't it?
Oof.
It does seem.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. What about the new Daily Show? Do you watch that with Trevor Noah?
I haven't downloaded that in a long time either. Yeah, I've kind of gone off kind of American TV quite a lot.
Yeah, I guess I at least I've gone off network TV. I guess with the exception of
the thing that did it with me with Trevor Noah was that guy's video that was like really heart tugging about Bernie, about how he was trying to dismiss Bernie. But then it ended up being...
I don't know if I saw that one.
Have you not seen that video? That heartwarming video?
I don't think I've seen it.
About how he was being maligned by the mainstream media. And
this was a Trevor Noah video?
Well, Trevor Noah was one of the clips of where he was saying, "Look, I think you're dumb." You must have seen it. And the full clip...
maybe. I don't know.
The full clip is saying, "I think you're dumb if you don't think you can achieve what you can..." It was a thing taken up.
I'll tell you one clip I saw. It was of Trevor Noah doing a stand-up comedy bit about miners in South Africa, like getting shot for organizing. Like that was one I saw. I was like, holy shit, dude.
Oh yeah. There was a few controversial things with Trevor Noah, actually, wasn't there? Yeah.
It was little controversial.
Yeah. And he also goes. He's a big one for going after people for content strikes as well, isn't he? He's gone after
I have no idea.
Cult of Dusty. He's gone after Cult of Dusty quite a few times.
Wait, Stephen Colbert or Trevor Noah went out after Cult of Dusty?
Yeah, Trevor Noah has almost made it his like pet project to go after Cult of Dusty. Have you not heard of that? That it was
No.
he got his channel like demonetized for like
What?
a couple of months and stuff because he was criticizing.
When did this happen?
This was like a few months ago. You should get in touch with.
Oh,
you should have him on
wow.
your show. Actually, he's good. I enjoy him sometimes.
He's
a bit of a grifter.
Cult of Dusty. Dusty and I had a huge online flame war. I invited him on, and he's not going to come on. If he wants to come on, I would love to have it. I would love to settle things with Dusty Smith. I would love for that to happen, but it's not going to happen.
I can tolerate him a little. I can tolerate a little bit of his shows, but he does seem a little bit. He's pandering to the kind of whole outrage politics thing that's a bit too.
I was supposed to go. He invited me on his show to debate him, and I was like, "Yeah, it's no problem." And he canceled, like within an hour or two before I was supposed to come on. Twice he did it twice. He canceled on me, pretended he didn't even remember doing it, and then we rescheduled for the next week, and then he did the same thing. Fuck that guy.
You were going after him, though, weren't you? About some of his old videos.
No, Trev. No. I was perfectly polite to him. I very graciously accepted his invite to go on his show and debate him, in spite of the fact that he was like hurling. He admits that he was hurling like abuse and belligerence at me in DMs. I very, very graciously accepted, agreed to go on, and then when he canceled on me, then I went fucking nuclear, because not only did he cancel on me, but he fucking lied about it. He was like, "What? Who are you? I don't remember any of this." And it was like, Dusty, it's 1 cent. If you scroll up 1 centimeter, you can see the entire fucking exchange between us. What the fuck are you talking about? He asked me to what?
You were doing a bit of a D'Angelo. You were woke scolding him about some of his old videos that he was still earning money from.
Excuse me, I was not woke scolding Dusty Smith, because Dusty Smith makes it his. So here's why I was watching Dusty Smith's channel. Man, you've got me fucking worked up now. Here's why I was watching his channel, because he invited me on to come debate him. So I was like, about feminism. So I'm like, it was actually about shoe on head, but what that doesn't matter. But so I'm like, okay, what kind of content
that's what you ended up
putting out about
content and scolding him about.
Here's all I did. Here's all I did was search his channel and see what kind of content he had about feminism. And then I did a thing that I almost always do when I look at someone's YouTube channel, which is I rank the videos by popularity to see what like their most popular videos are. Now, this is a guy who has spent the better part of 2 years harassing leftist women on YouTube about their problematic content, right? So I look at what his most popular videos are, right? 15th video, right? His 15th most popular video with over 400,000 views was a video called "Black Christians Are Uncle Tom House Negroes." That was the title of his video. And not only that, but it was monetized. And this was a video from pre-adpocalypse. So there was serious money coming in from this video, at least at one point. Up on his channel while he's harassing other content creators for their problematic content. So I looked at that and was like, Dusty, this is incredibly hypocritical. And when I brought it to his attention, his response was, well, it's fine for me to do it because it hasn't made enough money. And it was only after the fact that he saw his audience clearly didn't buy that he took it down and said that he put it up, that the reason he made that video was because of white fragility.
Yeah, you're right. I was in the chat actually while you were there typing that actually. When it went to be on there, I saw you in the chat saying, "Debate me."
Yeah, that's true. I did do that. I did go. Well, but keep in mind, I was challenging him to the debate. It was the debate he challenged me to. He said he wanted me to come in and debate him. So I was just there to debate him. He not only did he have that video up. He had videos using the N-word. He had one video. I haven't seen it. I can't. But according to Dusty Smith, he had a video on his channel that contained revenge porn that was monetized. How the fuck do you have revenge porn on your YouTube channel? And how do you position yourself as a moral cop policing left-wing women when you have that? The hypocrisy, it is the most glaring act of hypocrisy I have ever witnessed.
Yeah, I do agree with you about the hypocrisy, but I was just pointing out that you were turning into a bit of a woke scold yourself.
I was not. I was bringing up the incongruity with the values Dusty was holding leftist women to versus the standards he was holding himself to, which were none. That is not being a woke scold.
You should have waited until the show. No, I do agree with you about the hypocrisy. You should have waited until the show, though. Wait until you.
What show?
Wait, you were going to have him on your show? I said you should have waited until then, rather than.
No, it had fallen through already. If I had gone on his channel, we would have had a conversation about it. I wouldn't have necessarily brought up any. I would have brought it up if it was relevant, but I wouldn't just bring it up to be like, oh, you're a hypocrite. But I was going to go on and talk about what his ostensible values were and how they conflict with some of the things he's done. And if he had given me the opportunity, we would have had a pleasant conversing about it.
I actually used Dusty as an example in one of my videos, actually, of someone that had come out of being one of the right-wing grifters and admitted it. So I was watching one of the shows, and he was admitting how he was incentivized to produce more and more right-wing content because he was earning money, and I was like, I play that he's made the choice to not. Well, maybe he has just followed the money. I think that was the point that you were making, isn't it? That he's just kind of just following the money a little bit anyway.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's following the money. I'm not looking at his finances. I'm not in a position to judge that.
We all know it's harder to monetize right-wing content online now anyway. So
yes,
I think there is a little element of that. But I think that he does seem to be genuinely growing. But he does seem a little bit like he's just catering to kind of left-wing woke scoldy types, but especially when he's doing that chud watch and things. It can be quite funny, but yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit overload of Schadenfreude. Is that the word? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to check out what's going on between him and Trevor Noah. I'm sure it's good for business. I'm sure it's driving traffic to him. But yeah, that's interesting. I
think Trevor Noah,
I don't know.
as well to non-compete. He did it to his channel as well.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Why is he sniping at all these like tiny YouTubers? Like non-compete, isn't that like a really small YouTuber?
Because he's slandering his name, isn't he? And yeah, maybe this video might be up in here, but discovers.
Okay.
No, actually, no. I think the reason he actually used was because it was content strike, rather than actually criticizing it. But it looks quite obvious that it's more about the fact that he was criticizing him. He was talking about the thing that you were saying about the fact that it did something about
the strike.
Yeah, the strike with the minor strike.
It was I haven't watched it in a long time, but that was a pretty crazy comedy routine, I have to say.
It looks like Trevor Noah's he's just going after anyone that's talking about and using content strike as a reason to take them down.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
That was good conversation. Enjoy it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, it was thanks for teaching us about the stonks. And yeah, I mean, take care, man.
Look forward to the next video coming out as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Show my channel as well, Trev Ken, and same on Twitter and same on Patreon as well.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Take care. Bye.
All right, yeah, take care.